Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the DC fan site that'll give you plot synopsis and character bios on this issue. So, we are going to be looking at one of my favorite series of all time. I am a huge mark for Warren Ellis and an even bigger mark for one John Cassaday, who is the illustrator for this series. We are going to be looking at Planetary #1, and we are actually going to go through this entire series one issue at a time every single month. I love this series, and one of the neat things you will see is John Cassaday's art evolve from this hatchiness all the way into his more current modern style that he incorporates some dry brush and some charcoals type illustrations here. Warren Ellis wrote the hell out of this book. This thing, I don't know how to describe it, except it is Grant Morrison-esque in its stature in what Warren Ellis was trying to accomplish. And I hope you enjoy it as much as I absolutely enjoy this series. I bought the first trade paperback of this series back in the day, just fell in love with it. I just thought this was the coolest, most friggin' thing, and I've gone out and bought all the issues since. This is going to be the second series from Warren Ellis that we are going to be covering. We're going to be covering his Stormwatch run all the way into the Authority. So we're going to see the evolution of Stormwatch into the Authority as well. So I know that Warren Ellis is someone who has been canceled recently with some of the stuff that's come out, but it doesn't negate his absolutely brilliant writing. He is a Brit, so some of the humor or some of the stuff that you see here, it's just gonna be. Let's just say this is gonna be a very enjoyable book here. So, title of our story is All Over the World. So, this gentleman here is sitting by himself. Coffee tastes like your dog took a leak on it, he says. And this lady here says, dogs gotta go someplace. You don't like it, you get on out. Goddamn air conditioning always freaks out when you come in. And this lady comes in here. Is it cold in here then? She says. I don't really feel the weather, she says. So it's very interesting here looking at Cassaday's art. You can see already here that there's a little bit of dry brushing being done, but not overly a lot. I wonder if he saw this and goes, I like that. So, all right. Elijah Snow, I'm Jaquita Wagner. We spoke on the phone. He says, yeah. Explain to me why I shouldn't kill you right now, says Elijah. Is that why you agreed to meet me, Mr. Snow, to kill me? And he says, maybe. And so Jaquita says, then I'll be quick. You've done a fair job of covering up your existence and your career, Mr. Snow, but not quite good enough to hide your value. You're 100 years old. You've haunted the 20th century, Mr. Snow. And you haven't done much other than sit in your desert shack and eat here for the last decade. And Elijah says, if I could change anything, it'd be that. So Jaquita says, I have a job for you. It pays $1 million a year for the rest of your life, no matter how long you work for us, no matter how long your life turns out to be. Plus, we'll wipe whatever record of your existence remain. One of the things that Warren Ellis does is he would make these things like and Mark Miller does that, and I don't know whether it's a British thing or what, but they always throw like, we'll do this for this long, no matter, it does seem to be a trope that all of these Brits seem to play by. So love the shadowing that's being done. I've covered John Cassaday's run on Captain America. Feel free to check that out if you'd like. So she continues, in return, we want the exclusive use of you, your talents, memories, your existence. You have an idea of what's really been going on this century. The secret history. Help us uncover the rest. That's the job. And this lady comes in and she goes, anything? And Elijah says, yeah, get her a coffee, just like mine, he says. So afterwards here, I have no idea why I'm doing this. I've got no proof you're going to do anything you say you will. And Chiquita says, well, I figure you could walk back to that diner and drink that swill and eat that crap until you eventually die of renal failure and flatulence. Or you could take a small chance and have a life. That's the decision. So, and you can see the winds picking up. Get a job or drink coffee flavored with dog urine for all eternity. Tough one, he says. And here comes this helicopter with the symbol here, Planetary. And so he's been fixed up a bit. He is wearing all white. So some decent clothes, unlimited room service, time on my own, a platinum card in my pocket. Either I've gone insane or they poisoned the food or it's for real. Doesn't know which scares me more, he says. Mr. Snow, it's Chiquita Wagner, or Wagner in German. How are you doing, Mr. Snow? I see the tailor you ordered has been and gone. Very nice. 2 days well spent. Welcome to the New York office of Planetary. Who's paying for all this, Wagner? We are. Well, Planetary is the organization. Follow me. We've got a job, she says. Am I playing 20 goddamn questions here? Okay. It's the fourth man who pays for everything. And then he kind of looks down. The fourth man? We don't know his name. That's part of the deal. He could be Bill Gates. He could be Hitler. All we know is he has more money than God and funds everything that we do without questions. We call him the fourth man of Planetary. Planetary's always been a 3-person team. And where's the third man then, says Elijah. Downstairs waiting for us. And he says, hold on. What happened to the last third man then, the one before me? And Chiquita says, tell you some other time, when we've worked it out ourselves, she says. And so they come into this room, and Chiquita says, Elijah Snow, meet the drummer. Drummer, what are we using? Code names now? What's your name, son? And he says, the drummer. First name the, second name drummer. And you can see here he's got the drumsticks here. And use of computer here, kind of putting in a, instead of drawing, putting in a picture here. In the 90s, computers were starting to really get heavily into comic books. So Chiquita says, don't mind the drummer. He's crazy. I'm not, he says. He talks to machines, says Chiquita. And Elijah says, do they talk back to him, or do the antipsychotics stop him from sucking television sets? And Chiquita says, it's his talent. Machines do as he says. But you know, he's nuts. What's the word, drums? and he throws this bottle here, and he says, Adirondacks. And here you can see the panel kind of here. It's from the reflection from the outside. So pretty cool. It's amazing. It's this would be now. So this is from '99. So this would be 25 years old. This comic book, and Photoshop's been around for a while. So so Elijah Snow catches it. So the drummer continues, At Adirondacks, big mountains, some idiot or other planning to put tunnels, roads, and stuff through them. Though God knows what people think they're in the way of. Did resonance scanning, thermal imaging, and all that kind of stuff, looking for stresses in the mountains. They found a complex of caves inside a mountain, a very designed-looking complex, man-made, and you can see he's using the drumsticks and he's kind of drumming. And no one can see an entrance into this system, but scanning shows it's there. We've got a mole in that corporation who throws this to us. We buy some time on a spy satellite. Goddamn if the entrance isn't masked by a hologram. Now, all this would be weird enough, but do you remember those diaries we stole from the old KGB vaults 2 years back, Chiquita? He says. The Adirondacks. Right, the Adirondacks were the last known destination of Dr. Brass. Doc Brass, who I think is supposed to be like an amalgam or for Doc Savage. So, and here you can see his spinning his little drumsticks. So, one of the things, because this is probably one of the more I've been covering a lot of comics from the 70s and 80s. I haven't really been covering a lot of modern stuff. JLA is probably the most modern stuff I've been covering so far. And one of the things you'll notice during this time, you don't see the writer say elsewhere or at some time later, or in old comic books they would say things like that, like there would be a little break that said sometime later, or just to describe passage of time. But you'll notice that we're just moving boom 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 boom, no descriptions at all up here. Also, you'll notice that the use of the entire page is now being utilized, something that was frowned upon during the all the way to the mid 90s, and then you started to see more of the page, the entire page being used. So here we go here and see what we know about Dr. Axel Brass is. What we know about Dr. Axel Brass is limited, to say the least. He was born on January 1, 1900, which got our attention. Same birthday as several other unusual individuals. Disappeared January 1, 1945. So, Miss Wagner continues here. By the 30s, he was your genuine Renaissance man, great scientist, gifted inventor, something of a visionary. The diaries we obtained were kept by an apparent associate of Brass who died in Berlin during V-Day 1945. His corpse was evidently ransacked by a Russian officer. The books eventually passed into the hands of the KGB, who sealed them in their vault of forbidden knowledge. You can see here the drummer still playing with the drumsticks. We never heard of Brass until we read the books. Turns out Brass was also an adventurer. Also, there's evidence that he'd retarded his own aging and possibly no longer needed to eat. He dealt with things that no one outside this group knew knew about, things history never recorded, things we should know about. And so here's Elijah kind of thinking, kind of looking to the side here. It's amazing how you can talk for ages but not actually say one goddamn thing that I understand. How do you do that? Elijah asks. And she walks away. And drummer says, "Don't piss her off, man." And he says, "Why?" "Because she can drop kick a rhino over the Grand Canyon." And you can see Elijah's kind of getting annoyed at just the constant hitting of the drumsticks. "And I can shove these so far up your butt you'll be able to taste them when you cough. No wonder you spent most of your life on your own, man," says the drummer. "Only way I can be guaranteed a useful conversation," he kind of snaps back. And so the helicopter's reaching. "Okay, Snow, time to earn your pay. We're going in." And so Elijah says, "You heard her. Get up, you little bastard." And the drummer says, "I ain't going anywhere. What do you think I am, nuts? Out you go, Grandpa," says the drummer. And so he says, "Haven't tried a stunt like this since the Saigon bug out. You following me down, Wagner?" And she says no, and she jumps. Love that. And so you can see here she landed with force. Kind of like a Superwoman or a Wonder Woman, perhaps. "Come on, come on. The entrance is that way, and I want to get there before I retire." And as he goes down, he asks, "Can you really drop kick a rhino across the Grand Canyon? I tried it with an old man who irritated the crap out of me, and it worked. Might work with a rhino." So, "How long's Planetary been going on?" asks Elijah. "I have no idea. I joined 4 years ago. Whether it was around before that, I don't know. Nobody said so." "Why'd you join? The money or the secrecy your fourth man can buy?" "Neither. I get bored easily. Planetary stops me." It should say from getting bored. Stops me getting bored. So, all right. And so Elijah says, "Is that it?" And she goes, "That's it. Look over there." And we can see this weird looking thing. It says, "The Vulcania, Raven God." They all have signs. The hull of the charnel ship, vestments of the Black Crow King, the murder colonel's a trophy room, she says. And suddenly, with her eyes, she's like, or her eyes wide open, she's like, "Oh my God." And so we get this absolutely great panel. "I'm Axel Brass. You damn well better be the good guys," he says. You can see here it's some kind of energy. And you can see his legs are sort of useless here. Again, seeing a little bit of the dry brush being used, but not too much. And Elijah Snow is like, "Christ." Chiquita says, "Please, your guns are useless on me. We're here to help." "You want to help? Shut up and listen," he says Axel Brass. Elijah says, "For God's sake, you've been wounded and you've been here since," he says, "since 1945, boy. I eliminated my need for food and sleep in 1942, stopped aging in 43, and learned to close wounds with the power of my mind in 44. So shut up and listen to me. This is important, and we have no time." So we're now going back in time. So again, none of this. Again, no balloons, no nothing to tell you. We're going back in time. These are very cool pants. John Byrne. I'm covering his Wonder Woman run, and Hercules or Heracles or whatever his name is going by the name of the champion, and he's got a black pair of these type of pants. Pretty cool looking. So You have to understand. You have to listen, or else it'll all have been for nothing. They called me here in January 45. We built this place 10 years earlier, a secret headquarters for God's sakes, because we didn't feel safe meeting any other way. He continues. And so here he is with other. This was our place where we rested, planned, celebrated victories, and admired our trophies. There were monsters abroad in the world, things the world didn't need to know about. We were different, special, greater. We took that responsibility upon ourselves. January of 45, it all changed. I left my associates in New York and came here for for our most important meet. So these are supposed to be like the shadow. It seems like this is, and so these would be some of the pulp stuff. I wonder if this is the Spirit from Will Eisner. So Flash Gordon perhaps here. So you're a little late. Everything all right, doctor? Everything's fine. Let's get on with it. So this guy here is called the Aviator. He says, Edison and Hark insisted on waiting for you before spilling even a couple of beans, Axel. And he says, you didn't need to wait for me, Jimmy. How are things on the West Coast? And he says, strange. Glad to hear it, he says. And I think this guy here, if I remember reading, he's supposed to be the Green Hornet. And so you came all this way from England for this, your lordship. Africa, actually. Visiting childhood haunts. This is supposed to be Tarzan. Can we get this started? I have serious business in Chicago. And he says, you always have serious business in Chicago. And Dr. Brass says, okay. You've all dealt with the computers Ed and I put together for you in 40. You know how they work. Sure, simple electronics, binary operation, electronic calculations using two states on and off. And this guy here says, good enough. Between us, we've come up with an exploration of the computer. It's kind of frightening. The world isn't black and white, on or off. It's made up of situations that stand in all points between on or off, shades of gray. In fact, I think the universe is like that. It occupies all possible positions at once. And so this guy here says, a multitude of possible alternatives, none of them quite real, all of them contributing toward the actual reality, he says. A calculating device along these lines could perform its operations simultaneously, not serially, as in this binary technology. And so Axel Brass says, we've had a mechanical brain, gentlemen, but unlike any I've ever imagined, he says. And so this guy continues here. This quantum brain would perform each calculation across universe, each possible answer being processed in a different world, each alternative universe vanishing one by one until the answer is made itself real. Look, so if this kind of is going over your head, it's fine. It really does. Sometimes I don't even know if Warren Ellis knows what he's doing. Honestly, some of this stuff goes over my head. Even after years and years here, you see this kind of energy thing here. He says, this is the shape of reality, a theoretical snowflake existing in 196,833 dimensional spaces, or space. Each snowflake rotates. Each element of the snowflake rotates. Each rotation describes an entirely new universe. The total number of rotations are equal to the number of atoms making up the Earth. Each rotation makes a new Earth. This is the multiverse. Oof. This is how, like I keep saying, this is how Grant Morrison and Mark Miller. It's like they're all three are the same person because they all three speak the same unknown language. I mean, they just say things and then you're like, what? Um, but it sounds cool. So, all right. So the Flash Gordon character says the brain will generate the snowflake, this vast spread of universe, and allow each to decor and vanish as the correct answer is approached. It therefore processes information and performs actions simultaneously. Incredible actions, says Brass. I could code the world into a vast string of equations and have a corrected version of the planet Earth's return to me in seconds, kind of like string theory. Look at these computer coloring little bubbles here. We can save the planet. We can do anything. And so now we go back here. And we did. I love this panel. I love the shadowing. Oh, just so freaking cool. And so he continues here. The others were behind us. We had the agreement. We sought. We barely understood even the side effects of operating the machine could have. There was a slim chance that a solved equation could rewrite the entire planet's reality, making the mathematical answer an objective truth. But we did it anyway, kind of like the atom bomb. There was a chance in their calculations where they said this thing could just run away and destroy the world, but they did it anyway. And here we are. So that gentleman with those claws was Hark. And he says Hark's elaborate superhuman mathematics encoded geopolitics, psychology, weather systems, and processions of stars. As we attempted to end the Second World War from our armchairs. So you can see him here kind of grabbing this, so he's very strong. It was in 1945. The atomic bomb hadn't yet been dropped, but we knew it would be. We deliberately not entered the war, you see. We knew enough to understand how complex shifting the direction of civilization was. Too many variables. We could never juggle all the myriad possibilities our actions could set in motion. But the brain could. He kind of rips this thing and shows that supercomputer there from the 40s. It could furnish us with a solved equation that constituted the perfect plan to end the war as soon as possible with a minimum death, creating the best possible world society as a result. And you can see here he's kind of struggling here. Hark's math was entered into the brain by Edison as I moved the machine into life, and it began. And so Elijah says, Wagner, the floor, the entire room, it's the brain. We're sitting inside a computer. And the single terrible flaw in my imagination was the ruin of us all, he says as he kind of starts crying. The snowflake grew. Universes spun into life, their spans measured in seconds, by our reckoning. But time moved different in there. Within each newborn universe, billions of years span out in those few seconds we perceived. You can see here, kind of each Earth here. And at the end of those few seconds, in the last thinnest splinter of time, a group of people in a mountain hideaway looked across the gulf of realities at us, knowing that their universe was on the verge of decoherence destruction here. So, like a Superman, a Wonder Woman, a Batman, perhaps a Green Lantern. Oh, no, this is a Batman. So, Martian Manhunter. Or is that Martian? Oh, goodness gracious. You'll have to forgive me. So, I don't know which one is what. I'll assume this is a Martian Manhunter. So, is this Aquaman? I don't know. But this would be Batman, Green Lantern, and the Flash. So, they went for us. So, basically, a form of the JLA. during this time, Wildstorm was not a part of DC Comics, but it was coming. And so here they go. We go into a fight. We save the world that night, but my 6 friends thought not of themselves, their plans, their hopes. They thought only of stopping the invaders. So here you can see. If we hadn't stopped them, they'd have killed everyone on Earth to make room for everyone on their Earth. You can see here. So this is Aquaman, and then this is the Martian Manhunter. Okay. Only I survived. You can see here how he looks here. We nearly destroyed the world, and so we had to save it. But saving it destroyed us. And I couldn't switch the brain off, so I couldn't leave it. I've had to stay here, stay awake in case someone else comes through. I figured the year must be 1970 or thereabouts. How am I doing? Of course he's... So we're reaching the end of our story here. So the Planetaries arrived to kind of take care of him. And Jaquita says, I think he'll be okay. We have hospitals where he can be taken care of. He can finally rest. And Elijah says, now I see why 3 choppers, one for us, one for the medics, and what's in the third? And she says, not telling. And Elijah says, awake more than 50 years, poor bastard. Did Planetary get what they wanted out of this, Wagner? And she says, I don't know, did we? A quantum computer built during the World War II by a secret society of superhumans whom we didn't know existed, plus their hidden headquarters. We did okay, she says. And so he says, it's a strange world. And she says, let's keep it that way. So, Planetary #1, Warren Ellis, writer, John Cassaday as the artist. This is going to be a fun story. It may not get the listening, perhaps. It might not get the views. But I'm going to go through it because I love this series. And I haven't read it in forever, so I'm going to read it with you. Whether you guys read it with me or not, who's to say. But I recommend this series so much. Please buy this series. It is so good. So, like and subscribe. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.